Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Today, we are diving into a topic that might just blow your mind: why spirituality is key for business success. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, what does meditation have to do with the bottom line? Let me tell you, today's guest is about to connect the dots in a way that's bold, real, and downright inspiring. Meet Karissa Dean, listeners, your not so typical business mentor and certified ICF coach. She's a powerhouse juggling multiple thriving businesses, from dump trucks to vacation rentals, all while managing to have a great relationship with her husband and raising her child. Carissa doesn't believe in a cookie cutter advice or fluff. She's here to keep it all raw, real, authentic, and transformative. And today on the Mindful Living podcast, Carissa is going to show us how tapping into your spiritual side isn't just about Zen vibes. It's about creating clarity, resilience, and authentic success in both business and life. So buckle up. You are in for mix of truth bombs, practical tips, and maybe even a little spice. So, Carissa, welcome to the show, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Sana, thank you so much. The pressure's on. You said in the beginning we're going to have an epic conversation, and I think we are. And the pressure's on for me to show your listeners exactly what my bio says, which is I really believe that spirituality and business are mirrors of each other. And the more we can deepen our spirituality, the better our business grows. So I'm here for it and I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we have a ritual in every of our podcasts. Before we dive deep into the topic, we would love to know a bit about our guest's personal journey. So how did you get motivated? When did you realize that spirituality also can be a crucial, contributor to business success or maybe overall holistic success?
Yeah, holistic success for sure. I mean, I'd love to start the conversation by defining that success can mean something very different for different individuals. And so for me, success is feeling really empowered in my mental, emotional, and physical well-being and knowing myself and trusting myself. So spirituality for me is this connection to myself. I really believe that we are one with our beliefs, and living authentically means that alignment of that oneness and not thinking of yourself as separate. And whoever you believe in, whatever you pray to, whatever gods you hold dear, they're within you. And the magic of spirituality in business is that when we lean into ourselves and know ourselves, our business is a direct reflection of that. And so I think for me, I got into spirituality because I was at a crossroads in my personal and professional life where I was not feeling good. I was not empowered. I was not excited about my life. I felt lost. I was definitely overwhelmed, overburdened, the traditional American burnout where we're doing all the right things, but what we want, or that quote unquote success, feels far away. And so for me, I had no choice but to lean into spirituality. I needed help. It was I'm on my knees, please God, save me from myself moment. I hope that it isn't like that for everyone, but for me, that was my experience. Is I was at my end, the end of my rope. I couldn't hang on anymore. I could not continue being overworked, being overburdened, being I was kind of a victim of my own mind. And so spirituality is what saved my life. And meditation, for the better part of my, journey into spirituality was really the key factor in saving myself from myself, and helping me get to where I am now.
No, I totally agree with you. And, I totally believe that, in spite of what, you know, many would have kind of misconceptions or maybe opinions about spirituality in business, it gives hope. It gives a lot of grit and resilience to your mind, and, gives you that hope to, have that perseverance and navigate through the tough times, especially in business. Because some people would argue that spirituality has no place in the business world, and the success is purely about data strategy and execution planning and all that. So how would you respond, Karissa, to this perspective?
What a great question. I think that there's always different pathways for people. There's always options. You don't, as society likes to project, there's this one way. I really believe that there are multiple pathways. And so for the person who is tired of leaning on the data and the execution of all the quote unquote work that has to be done, if they're tired of looking at the stats and not feeling excited about their work, it's because something's missing. And what's missing is the magic of you. And that's your purpose. And that is only something that can be found through your spirituality. And again, spirituality is the key thing that will get you through as you said, it is the thing that allows you to have the resiliency. It's the grit. And it is the thing that will get you through the tough times, because it's the belief in something bigger. It's the belief in something you can't see, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. It's not known yet, right? It's not known in one of our traditional senses. And so spirituality in entrepreneurship, as a CEO, as an executive, as a business owner, is everything, because you have to believe in something that you cannot see, smell, taste, touch, hear, or has not yet been accomplished. If you look at the massive, producers of the things that we have in the world today, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they believe in something bigger than themselves. And they had a spiritual practice. They had a level of resiliency. They held a belief that was beyond comprehension. And for an entrepreneur to have resiliency, you have to have a spiritual practice that allows you to carry beliefs forward without evidence. And so I think a lot of the burnout that we experience in society, especially in the American culture, is this focus on the data and focus on the execution, the doing. And what spirituality is it's the being. It's the I am here and I trust this path. I can't see it. I don't know the next step at all the times, but I'm so steadfast. I'm resilient to the thing that I know I'm here to create. That's belief. That's spirituality.
Yep. I totally agree with you on this, Karissa. That's a great answer, by the way. And can you share any personal example of where spirituality made a difference in your business or achieving success in business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to pick just one because I think the more that I reflect on, holy
Mhm.
wow, how did I get to where I am? My story is laced with the beauty of resiliency and
Mm.
the resiliency that I had to have a belief, I had to hold on to something. But if we're going to apply it to business, let's do that. So, in my property management business, I never had a doubt. I never doubted if it would work. We would buy a property, we would decorate it, organize it. I'd get it set up on the platform that we would choose to host it with.
Mhm.
And it just always worked. It always worked because there was no limiting beliefs around it working. I knew it would work. And so that business has always just been this machine that works because I don't have any limiting beliefs. I don't have any doubts. It works for itself because it makes sense. And it isn't data driven. It isn't like I need to make X amount of dollars driven. It's over here as something that I just knew would work. And I think that that is the testament to my spiritual practice is we would make these investments. My husband and I were a team. We worked together, but we would make these investments and I would tour hundreds and hundreds of homes. I would drive all over the state. We live in Oregon here in America. I would drive all over to look at properties and I would know because of my gut instinct, because of my spiritual practice, if this house would make it or not. And more often than not, I've been right. And that is why the spiritual practice is so important because I would trust myself and I wouldn't look at the data. I wouldn't listen to the realtor who was just trying to convince me to buy. I would look at what I knew to be true for how this business would work. And it's kind of the same in my coaching business. There's a lot of external noise that's going to tell me how I should run my business. But the moment that I stopped listening to the noise and I started listening to my intuition, that is when my business did its best, is because I was leading through the oneness that I had created through my meditation practice and my spirituality and changing the way that I thought about what it all had to look like. And that was a lot of healing around judgment and the inner critics that we all have, and really getting to know myself and trust myself. And you can only become that confident entrepreneur when you have a spiritual practice.
True, that is true. So you are a master, Karissa, at juggling multiple businesses while also staying grounded. How has your spiritual journey helped you maintain focus and avoid burnout?
Again, it comes back to that oneness. I really am in tune with where I'm at. And I pay attention to my cycles of life, of when I know things are going to get busy. I tend to block my calendar in advance. So it's having a little bit of, strategy in your planning and organization. Thanksgiving and the holidays are coming up over here, celebrating Christmas and New Year's. I know that my personal life is going to get chaotic. So my business life, I got to be really strategic in my planning. And I also have to really up my dedication to my meditation practice, to my journaling practice through setting alarms. I get up earlier, I organize my day, but it's paying attention and it's being really organized and being really mindful around, is it really possible for me to do 6 calls on a Wednesday when I know that Thursday, Friday, Saturday is going to be filled with family obligations and I have to cook all these meals? Okay, I should probably maybe only do 2 or 3 calls that day, right? So it's getting to know yourself, know your capacity, and then being really conscious about it and then making the choice. Do I want to take on 6 calls and work? Do I need to because I'm trying to meet a dollar amount to help support my family through the holiday season? Or do I have the space to minutes to set a boundary and say, actually, I'm only available for 2 calls today. It's really just, it's being thoughtful. It's being thoughtful about your energy, what you have to bring to not just your business, but your personal life. Because, the reality is we're all juggling all of those things, and it's about your priorities, what's important. And so there are seasons to our priorities as well. There are seasons where my business is more important, and that is the priority. Thankfully, I'm at a place where I can be more conscious and choose accordingly the value of my family and my connection, and to be more available for that.
True. That is really empowering. So, for someone new to exploring spirituality, where do you suggest they start? And are there any practices or tools that you have found particularly impactful?
Yeah, I think you can start anywhere. I think deciding to do something different. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a great book. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And he talks a lot about in that book, it's the small things that really add up. And he's right. When we are looking for change in our life, we just have to start somewhere. So whether that's giving yourself an extra 5 minutes before you race out the door, whether it's switching your coffee to tea, whether it's, asking for help, whether it's, meditating, journaling. I think you just have to start somewhere, and you have to break one mundane habit, and you have to be more conscious about the things that you're doing and why you're doing them. For me and my clients, I always, require or request that they meditate. I think meditation is the key to knowing yourself and becoming the master of your mind. Abraham Hicks talks a lot about, a thought is just a belief. And so the more you think something, the more it becomes a belief, right? And so if you can be a master of your mind, and you can do this through awareness and meditation, you can change your beliefs. And so for the entrepreneur that feels like it's never enough, meditating and finding pathways to feel safe and to feel like, yeah, my history tells me it's never enough, but I'm creating a new pathway that says there is more than enough. And you start somewhere on that pathway. And it might just be meditating of like, okay, today it's enough. Today it's enough. That's an easy touch point to start. And then you build on that from there. And slowly the affirmation can grow until it is, there's always more than enough. But we have to start small, and we have to think about sustainable habits. I talk about sustainability a lot in my coaching business with my clients, because if you just are like, okay, I'm going to be a meditator, I'm going to go to a 10-day silent retreat and do a Vipassana meditation, that's like a big radical shift for a lot of people. Why don't we just start with 5 minutes of meditation, twice a week? And let's just start there. So I would say, where can you start with a sustainable habit that's easy for you to access, that you can commit to? Because that's the resiliency piece as well. This spirituality is no different than the resiliency you're going to need in your business. It's a practice, and you got to show up for it.
True. That is true. So, on the flip side, there's a belief that mixing spirituality with business could alienate certain clients or team members. So, how do you navigate staying true to your spiritual values while also keeping your business inclusive and professional?
Well, I think inclusiveness is giving people permission not to buy from you or participate in your business. That's inclusiveness. So for me, initially what I would say to this question is, they were never going to be your customer anyways. So it's okay that you're not for everyone, but being open to learning new perspectives, being fearless in what you are trying to bring forth is important. And I'm a firm believer that we're all unique individuals with our own set of traumas, healing, beliefs, and pathways. And I celebrate the people that don't want to buy from me, because that just means that they're one step closer from buying from the right person. So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to wrap your head around, you have competition in your industry because you're not for everyone. Not everyone likes fuzzy socks. Not everyone likes sweatshirts, and so you are in your industry, and your people will find you the more you are authentic to yourself, because what you are attracting are people who are like-minded thinkers. So if they're unfollowing you, if they're unsubscribing, if they're not buying from you, let them go. They were never going to buy from you anyways.
True. That is true. I think that's really simple and a straightforward message, and that can uh, lead to so much of clarity within any entrepreneurs or founders mindset, that of course followed by creativity. So that's a very great takeaway our listeners can take this from conversation. And now coming to talking about authenticity, what's the connection between authenticity, Karissa, which you are so passionate about, and I can feel from how you're saying and what you're saying, and spirituality in creating a fulfilling business life?
Yeah. I think that everyone's here for a purpose, and we're all connected. And collectively, what you're here to do, Sana, is very different than what I'm here to do, but it can be similar. And I think the more that we align to ourselves, the more we're living in our purpose. And you can't align to yourself if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't get to know yourself. This is why it's so important to have a really strong spiritual practice, so that you're always connecting back to yourself. You're always clear on your pathway. And this is, the hardest work we have as humans, because we are dropped into this human experience where there's so much noise, and there's so many people out there telling you, you should be this way, you should act this way, you should think like this, you should do this. And it's unfortunate, because you should just be who you are. And spirituality can really bring you back to that. And that is where your authenticity lives, is by knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and then leading yourself unapologetically. And you do that through this muscle of resiliency in your spiritual practice. So being your authentic self is the absolute greatest gift that you can give yourself, and that you can give the collective. The entire universe benefits when you are more of who you are meant to be. And I really believe that. And I think that my purpose, of being a coach and supporting entrepreneurs, that's my purpose. And when I shine my light and I do more of that, and I help more people find their purpose, it just is this ripple effect that goes out into the world. And so I am very passionate about people being authentic and leading themselves, because you have magic within you that is so different than the magic within me. And it's so needed, and it's so valuable. So I would say it's like, being authentic is more than gold. It's everything. And I think most people don't feel good because they're not authentic.
Mm-hmm. Great, great, Carissa. So before we wrap up, in your experience, how does embracing spirituality help entrepreneurs make better decisions or take meaningful actions in their business?
When you study the most well-known entrepreneurs in the world, you will see a path of them doing things that everyone else thought was crazy. That's authenticity. That's knowing yourself. That's trusting yourself. And they didn't get there. They didn't just wake up one day and decide to do it. They really had a deep inner connection. That's spirituality. And when you look at history, the people who did great things that we know their names now, they were spiritual beings. So I think that your business, your life, demand spirituality if you want to be quote unquote successful.
True, true. Great. That was such an enlightening and interesting conversation on spirituality in business and also how you defined success for all of us. So if our listeners they want to connect with you or explore more about your coaching and other resources you provide, how they can do that.
Yeah, so my website is karissadean.com. Karissa is spelled with a K. I'm sure you guys will link that information here. I'm on Instagram at Coach Karissa Dean with an underscore in between each word. And then I too have a podcast called Critical Conversations where I dive into a lot of really hot topics that I believe are things that can change the world and make it a better place for all of us to live. So I'd absolutely love to hear from anyone or answer any questions. I so appreciate you guys having me on and listening to this conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes for all of our listeners. And Karissa, thank you so much for this powerful conversation where you helped us explore the transformative role spirituality can play in defining and achieving success, not just in business, but I believe in holistically, as I said in the beginning, in our life. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
And listeners, if today's conversation sparked a new perspective for you, don't forget to share it with your friends and colleagues and your loved ones, and also subscribe to the Mindful Living podcast. And remember, as Karissa would say, there's no room for BS when it comes to living authentically and creating a life that's truly yours. Until next time, stay mindful, stay authentic, and keep redefining what success means to you. Thank you.